And we had the original Bhagavatams. I don't know if any of you have seen the original Bhagavatams. That's all we had until 1972. Then the first of the BBT Bhagavatams was published. Have any of you seen the original Bhagavatams? By any chance? You have.
I think you have copies of them next door, you know, they reprinted them. Like
the facsimile.
Yeah,
yes.
the facsimile, yeah.
You know, I used to have the original set. Somebody stole them, you know, even in the ashram. I mean, I used to keep them next door at when it was my office. And one day they'd gone. So I got the facsimile, so I brought them in just to show you. So maybe some of you have seen this, but in case you haven't, I brought in a couple of, there's volume 1 and volume 2, there were 3 volumes, you can pass it around. And these were, actually these were made by Brahma Maharsa in Sweden. He went to great lengths to exactly reproduce the same quality of paper. He's obviously scanned and original. These are not letterpress. Of course, you know, they're not letterpress. Letterpress, in other words, in the old days of typesetting, you know, when each individual letter had to be placed in a case, and then, you know, the impressions were made by clamping it down on the paper. So that was called letterpress printing, and that went out really in this country. In the 50s it was replaced by lithography, but in India it was still current in Delhi, and so Prabhupada had this original Bhagavatams printed by letterpress. So you see when you look that the letters aren't all in line, little up and little down, and occasionally there's one missing or something like that. And the language is also quite you could say charming, because there's occasional Indian use of English where there's some, you know, the definite article is missing or something else. We'll read a bit from it later and I'll show you. So we had the Bhagavatam, and then suddenly we had this Krishna book. There were 1 or 2 other small books, but the Krishna book was just it was just like something that landed from heaven. So we had this Krishna book, and you know, we were devouring it. Absolutely, you can imagine all these stories we've never heard before. And this one particular chapter sort of attracted my attention. Just out of curiosity, I wondered, what on earth is this? It's called Krishna the Ranchor, and I had no idea, you know, what Ranchor was. But I found it, you know, fascinating story. I learned that Ranchor means it was a name for Krishna, meaning he leaves the battlefield. So anyhow, we had that, and my name was Richard at the time. And then one day a letter arrived from Guru Das in India containing 2 sets of japa beads made of tulsi. I'd never seen, I don't think we'd ever seen really those Indian beads. Our japa beads we used to buy them in the local India craft shop, which was just across Oxford Street. Small wooden beads, you know, hippie beads really. That's what we had for japa beads. But this package arrived from Guru Das with 2 sets of tulsi mala, and they were very white and pristine. And he sent instructions. He said, give these to Richard, and the other was Paul. You know, we're recommending them to be initiated. So tell them to soak the beads in oil and chant on them, and send them back for Prabhupada to chant on. So we did that, and we sent them off sometime in December. I joined in September. We sent them off, and not exactly with letters, you know, requesting Prabhupada, please accept my service, and so on. And we didn't forget about them, but, you know, we put them out of your mind because you didn't know how long it was going to take. Prabhupada was travelling around India. And then one day in February, I was upstairs in the Brahmacharya ashram, like this temple, it was mainly stairs, very place. Even more than this temple, it was 50% stairs, a stairway. So I was up the top in the Ranchor ashram, and Lilavati, who she was one of the original San Francisco devotees, she was in the temple. She'd been there for a few weeks. And we had talked and got to know each other. We were sort of friendly. She was married to Murari. Anyway, she was calling up the stairs, and she was calling Ranchor, and I think, why is she calling Ranchor? Krishna the Ranchor. What's that about? She's just calling the name Ranchor. So I went down to see what she wanted, and she was looking at me, and she's just calling Ranchor. I said, "What are you doing, Lil? Have you gone mad?" She said, "No, Prabhupada has called you Ranchor." So ever since then, I took an interest in this pastime of the kidnapping of Rukmini, because Prabhupada gave me that name, of course, Ranchor Das, servant of Ranchor. And I learned that Prabhupada explains Jarasandha had attacked, yet again he'd attacked Krishna and Dwarka, and Krishna was on his way to defend the city, and then Prabhupada says, Krishna is known as Ranchor, which means one who has left the battlefield, because at this time he chose not to fight with Jarasandha. In India, especially in Gujarat, there are many temples of Krishna, which are known as temples of Ranchorji. Ordinarily, if a king leaves the battlefield without fighting, he is called a coward. But when Krishna enacts this pastime, leaving the battlefield without fighting, he is worshipped by the devotee. So, anyhow, the reason why Krishna chose not to fight was because he'd had a message from Rukmini that she was in love with Krishna. But her brother, Rukma, he wanted to marry her to his friend, who was Sishupal, a great demon. He was very unhappy about the idea of her marrying Krishna. So he'd made this arrangement, and it was due to happen sort of the very next day or something. So she sent an urgent message to Krishna with Brahman, and the Brahmin arrived, personal confidant of hers. He arrived with the message just in time, just as Krishna was about to go out and fight. He got this message that Princess Rukmini urgently, desperately wants you to come and rescue her. Now this time Krishna he didn't have any queens, he hadn't married. So Rukmini would be his first wife. So this is a very important pastime. And immediately he left the battlefield, and he dashed over to the city where Rukmini was. And there's a couple of chapters in between, so to cut to the main point of this, he rescued Rukmini. She was apparently so beautiful that all the demons, and all the various other princes who were assembled, hoping to get her hand, they fell off the backs of their horses